Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Gilda Evans, bringing you the Autism Resource Podcast. This podcast and the ARP website are your one-stop knowledge and resource base for autism and much more. I'm pleased to have George Bailey as my guest today. George Bailey is the President Sleep Talker of zPods, a startup that is developing sensory-friendly beds for high-energy children, including those with autism. He also sits on the board of directors for Autism Speaks and the On the Spectrum Foundation in St. Louis, where his company is based, and is engaged in the community through these organizations and church service. George has a JD, a master's degree in teaching English to speakers of other languages, and a bachelor's degree in Chinese. In fact, he is fluent in Mandarin Chinese, German, and Danish, in addition to his native English language. George and his wife have 5 children, 2 of which are on the autism spectrum. Welcome, George, and thank you so much for taking the time to join me today to talk about your amazing invention.
Thank you so much. And one thing I want to make clear is that from the start, this is not my invention. I'm very fortunate to have worked with a few other people who are really capable at taking something that already existed, in this case, the capsule bed, very prevalent in Asian airports and micro hotels, and repurposing it for the autism community. And then at this point, we get to take it and really truly invent something new. We're very excited.
Well, it sounds wonderful. So what can you tell me about these sensory-friendly beds you're developing, and what makes something sensory-friendly?
Well, it's a great question. I think that we're really only in the starting phases of understanding what it means to be sensory-friendly, particularly at nighttime. What we know is that there are a lot of children out there, it's almost 1 out of every 6 in the United States, according to the CDC, who have a sensory processing disorder. Those of you who are listening know that that is a lot more prevalent in the autism community. Autism, among autistic children, up to 90% are affected by a sensory processing disorder. So when we go about trying to create a space, what we're thinking about is like, how do we help soothe this child at night when it's so important for them to be able to get good sleep? And one of the things that has become really key to a sensory-friendly environment is a sense of kind of like a sensory hug. So that's why, these beds, which if you've never seen them before, they are enclosed units. You get inside, you close a door, and you're literally sleeping inside of a pod. It's not small, it's 6 feet, 5 inches from end to end. So it's like, I fit in there. I'm a grown man and I love it. I think it's very comfortable. But the point is that when you feel that kind of enclosure, whether it's through your kind of senses, through your, what's the sense I'm looking for? It'll come to me in just a moment. Vestibular sense, whether it's through that, or whether it's through just the feeling of having something really close nearby, it's like you feel like you're getting kind of a hug. And our theory is that that's what is helping many of the children we work with to sleep better. But we're careful. We don't make any medical claims. I want to be very clear about that. Though we are doing clinical trials to be able to establish a little bit more information so that we know more.
Well, what you say about sensory issues and sensitivities for children and people in general that have autism is very true. It's very, very common to have several different comorbidities along with the autism diagnosis.
Yeah, so, that's one of the classic reasons why, people say, if you know one kid with autism, you know one kid with autism, is because they all show up in different areas. My son, Joseph, is very much affected by sensory processing disorder. He's very sensitive or attuned to his surroundings. And my daughter, Madeline, not so much. Now, she does have her issues, and there are some things that make her a lot more uncomfortable, but not on the same level as Joseph, But then when she explodes, then you better be behind some form of shelter, and Joseph, it's not quite as rip-roaring violent as what my daughter is capable of doing.
Yes, you're right. Each individual does definitely present differently, and it is very much case by case and person by person in terms of what their challenges are, what their issues are, what they need, and
Yeah.
what makes them comfortable, definitely. So you began this startup by focusing on autistic children. Please
Yeah.
tell me why, and do you plan to expand into other communities?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the simple reason as to why is because that's where, my own passion is my passion is my kids. And I've got these two kids who are autistic. One of them has a very rough time sleeping, not quite as rough as many other children that are affected by childhood insomnia, in the autism community. But so it's very personal. And then once a matter of fact, I balked at it. I actually thought, we don't really need to focus on autism. We had friends who were prodding us to focus in that direction, but I hesitated because I thought, oh, these parents, they get so many things sold to them, and I've been that person, and I don't want to be the one who's trying to sell. But the more that we went into it, we had experiences and collaborated with folks in the autism community. We got a lot of really strong feedback. Like, please look at this. So we looked at it, and our first case study turned out amazing, where we had a young woman jump from 4 hours of sleep a night to over 10, and that's been over it's been close to 2.5 years now. It's amazing.
Wow, that's great.
That has become our why, is these kids, because we love working with them. We know that it's not going to help every single kid, but we do know that there are some that it's going to help in a big way. So I would say that that's our big why. Now, as for outward expansion, yeah, totally. And the fact of the matter is, like, every kid who looks at these beds thinks like, I want that, because they're cool looking. They're really cool. And that's why I always, tell parents, take it with a grain of salt. I mean, your kid's going to want this. That's not the issue. Is it going to have any sort of substantial effect on their sleep performance? We don't know, So that's why we want to do the clinical trials. We want to learn everything we can. But kids with ADHD, guess what? They have a hard time sleeping, disproportionate to their peers. Okay. Kids with OCD, guess what? They have a hard time sleeping. These are commonalities that they share. And I'm very willing to bet that behind a lot of it, for those who are the roughest sleepers, is the sensory processing disorder.
Can you go into a little more detail as to why sleep loss in autistic children and others is such an important issue, and also touch on the broader societal issue of sleep loss in America?
I'm going to start with that one first, because I feel like we're notorious in the United States. We've created a culture of work, a lot of pressure. I'll sleep when I die, type of pressure. You find that a lot in Silicon Valley. And, because we're competitive. And so we tend to think like, well, I don't really need as much sleep as other people. It's almost like, okay, I think think about it this way. Most people think that they are better than the average driver. Statistically speaking, that's impossible. Okay. So most people also think that they're fine without sleep, but they don't know what they don't know. They don't know what they're missing out on. They don't know what they are like when they're sleeping better and their performance is better and more efficient during the day. And I think that they're happier. I think that we're all happier. We all feel better when we sleep better. The average American gets about 6.5 hours of sleep a night. That is not good. Okay, you really do. Oh yeah. But the pressure, as I said, the pressure is there. Now with our kids, it's kind of different in the sense that the pressure is not necessarily there from a social aspect in terms of like, wow, I'm really impressed that you don't get that much sleep. No one's really, if I know a business person who's like, Wall Street and he's like, yeah, I only sleep 4 hours a night. I mean, they use that in a way to impress each other, which again, I'm going back to what I was saying. I think that's folly. There are a lot of health problems, higher likelihood of having a heart attack, much higher, as a matter of fact. And kids, they don't have those same kinds of competitions. But where the societal pressures show up is school. Some schools start really early. You got to be ready at 6:30 or something like that. And most kids really don't. Have you ever tried getting a kid out of bed? Doesn't
yes.
go very well.
Several of them, yes.
So the societal pressures there are kind of more the actual rules of when things start, than actual like social pressures. Maybe if you belong to a sports club when you're in high school or something like that, you might start talking about that. But the point is that those pressures are there, but the kids still need a lot of sleep. As a matter of fact, they need more sleep than you or I. You and I probably need on average about 8 hours of sleep, maybe a little less, maybe a little more. Every individual is different, but kids need about 10 hours, if not more, and they just suck it right up, and so sleep is very important. Among autistic children, look at what is going on during the day, okay? A lot of pressures in terms of, the treatments that they're receiving. And maybe you notice that they have, meltdowns and stuff like that. I can tell you right now, those things are going to go down when you're getting better sleep. So you have to take sleep seriously. I mean, it's a third of our lives, and I don't mean to be like melodramatic about it. It's one of those things where all of a sudden I found myself kind of feeling like a little bit of a goof. I didn't care about sleep 3 years ago before this started. I didn't have so much passion for it. Now I'm just like preaching sleep, and I'm the sleep preacher, I kind of feel like a goof. But it is important.
Oh, it's very important. And what you say about the societal pressure is absolutely true. And it does start when the kids are young and starting school and all the way through college. I mean, those who do graduate high school and go on to college, and then there are all these pressures and all these deadlines and all the pulling all-nighters, and and the sleep deprivation is rampant. It's a problem from one end to the other, from A to Z.
Totally.
Yeah, definitely. Now, a lot of the families who might benefit from your bed might also be unable to purchase one due to cost.
Yeah.
So what are you doing, or are you doing anything to make your bed more affordable and accessible for these families?
That is the great question. As a matter of fact, it's the elephant in the room every single time we talk with someone. It's the elephant of the room of the business. It's the biggest concern that we have as a business because, we want it to actually be more accessible, not less. And one of the hard realities of running a startup is that you have to charge more upfront. The early adopters, the people who take this on, they're going to take the biggest risk. We know that. And they know that. And we try to be really fair and honest to them about like, hey, by the way, this is going to, it's expensive. And, we don't try to play it off or anything. But so for us, we're constantly thinking, how do you both drive the price down, but also open up the resources? Now, we've succeeded in a number of ways. I would say, number one is that we have gotten state funding in a number of states, California included. That really surprised us. I thought California was going to be a lot harder. I thought that they would come a little bit later in the game. But just several months ago, we had our first sale to California that was fully funded by one of your regional centers. In that case, it was Alta Regional Center. And so that was like, wow, and the thing that we learned is that we started to work, instead of trying to sell directly, instead of trying to deal with these resources, the state disability waivers, state grants or funding sources, assistive technology programs, which we've also found to be really helpful. We realized that we should be working with DME providers, and we have lined up quite a few, because DME, or durable medical equipment providers, the people who sell these things, they know how to work with insurance companies. They know how to work with the waiver programs in every state. And we're just a few people, a few women and men who are like trying to master every single different program in every state. It's not working. It just can't. So all of a sudden, we've learned that by working through these EME providers, they know these programs. So we have gotten it covered. I would absolutely say to anybody, if you think you don't have enough money for this, please talk to us. because we will go out of our way to do what we can. I do want to give the caveat that you as a parent or a caretaker probably also have to be a mover and a shaker on your own. And that's not to say like, we're not going to help you at all. I'm saying we're going to do what we can, but this isn't going to happen with serious initiative on the part of the caregiver, the person making the purchase or arranging for the state to cover it. They're going to have to get, in touch with their child's OT or pediatrician, whoever it is that's going to recommend the bed. But we're happy to kind of talk you through the process and to share what we've learned so far. Also, in terms of price, just so you know, up until June, early June, we have a deal open where we're selling the first number of our beds for $2,800, shipping included. And that's coast to coast. We're doing that because even though we're not able to make it would not be sustainable for our business in the long run. And I try to be really transparent about how our business operates. It wouldn't be sustainable. We could not hold that up. We do want to get as many out there as possible in the first wave so that people have access. And look, one thing I'm very acutely aware of is that when you have something that's out there and it's being seen and kids are experiencing it, then other people are going to want to get that thing too. So that's part of, who we are as a business, but we're also people. We try to, balance both of those interests.
Well, it's great to hear that you're doing all those things to help make this accessible for people and some very, very smart approaches also, I must say. So what do you think is on the horizon for sleep technology?
The thing that excites me the most is that I think that sleep technology is going to be powered eventually by artificial intelligence. And whether we're going to make this happen or other people are going to make this happen, we're working on some stuff that is going to lay the foundation of this. Artificial intelligence means that your sleep environment can be more attuned to you as an individual. It can track kind of, if you have enough sensor technology involved in the process, then your, environment, which rests on an AI platform, can then adapt to what it's seeing in your sleep performance, and it can make changes accordingly. You don't have to think about the changes. You may give an initial input. Here's what I like. Here's what I like. But it's going to tell you what you really like, because in the middle of the night when you're out cold and it knows what the temperature is, and it knows what your internal temperature is, and it knows how many movements you're making in the night. It knows a lot more about you than you do. And this is actually one of those areas where, let's say you get on Facebook or social media and it's throwing stuff at you that you're like, how does it know? And that may make you nervous. And for some people, I understand, for privacy reasons and stuff like that. But in terms of your bed being responsive to you, how does it know? At that point, you actually don't care. It doesn't creep you out. You're actually kind of like, oh, thank you. It's like you're getting a massage at some nice, Swedish, parlor or something like that. Thank you, Maurice. This is so nice. You know exactly what to do. That, I think, is what is on the horizon. And we would like to be a part of that journey. I think that we're putting in place some of the things that are going to make that possible. I see other sleep companies that are doing incredible tech. And I also think that people are going to open themselves up to the idea that it's really nice to have your own nook. This is where zPods has appeal, is kids intuit. Like, how many kids do you know who love building a fort? Basically all of them. And some of them love sleeping in that fort. So we're giving them the coolest sleep fort ever.
Well, this just sounds so cool. I have to tell you, and yes, I built a fort when I was a kid. Yes, I did. And yeah. I think maybe I want one of these beds for me,
Hey, it comes in adult size right now. There is some pressure for us to get something that can fit somebody who's up to 6'7". That'll be the day. But you and I, unless I don't know, I'm judging your height by what I'm seeing on screen here. But I think that you and I, that you wouldn't have a problem fitting. And I know that I'm 6'2", totally. So you let us know. We'll send you one.
Will do. So where can people find out more if they're interested?
Well, so our website is zpods.tech, 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 or you can just reach out to me via email. My email is george@zpods.io. And I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has, because we love this and we take this challenge very seriously. We know it hurts a lot of families and we want to help.
All right. Well, thank you so much, George, for your time and for sharing a terrific resource with us today.
Thank you very much. It's been my pleasure.
If you like what you hear, please subscribe to the podcast. You can find it on Apple iTunes, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and other popular platforms. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And you can always access us and other great resources on our website, autismresourcepodcast.com. I want to thank our listeners for spending part of their day with us. This is the Autism Resource Podcast, and I'm Gilda Evans, reminding you to take care of yourself and that special person in your life.